Welcome to this episode of Who Gives a Vote, where we discuss all things politics and some other things along the way. All the views expressed in this podcast are personal views and do not reflect the views of any organisation or entity that the participants may be involved with. So let's get started. So welcome to this episode of Who Gives a Vote. It's another exciting adventure in the world of politics in Australia this week. We have Robert, Carly and Satira. So Satira, starting with you, welcome back. You didn't make it last week, but you're here in strength and vibrance. You ready for it?
I think so. I can't guarantee that I'm going to add anything too profound, but I'll give it a red hot crack.
Why not?
Yep. And what about you, Robert?
Yeah, thank you, Stuart, for the invite, and it's just wonderful to be in your amazing setup here and have the opportunity to share some deeper thoughts to what's going on.
So this is your first time in the pod, and how do you feel?
I feel like a pea in a pod. And yeah, no, good. No, I think it's fantastic what you've set up here, and the discussions that you're opening up. It needs to happen. There's a lot of monologue out there that, in the general community. It needs to be busted up.
So you haven't been around for a bit, but you've been involved in politics, but you've sort of kept your head down, working, enjoying life, bit of poker. How's life going after politics for you?
Pretty good, yeah. I've got 5 grandkids now, and that's sort of that extra dimension. Yep. So I just spoke to my granddaughter before I came, and I'd sent her down a book about the Easter hot cross buns book, and I read the story and sent her the sound file. So this sort of ties in with that. And anyway, she gave me a good rap because the first one I didn't do turn the page.
Is she marking you out of 10 or?
No, I think it's just good.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
you did good, Pop.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's for the first one I sent, she rang up and said, you did it wrong, Pop. You didn't do turn the page. So this time I did, blah, 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 turn the page.
Are you following this, Satira, or are you completely lost?
So I think
this is going to be a great sign of things.
Well, I think it's just important to remember to ground yourself. So I've been grounded before I came here.
Yeah,
Stu.
all right, that's the time for the show, guys. Thanks
See you next week.
Carly.
I don't even know where to go from here.
Well, the only way is up.
Yeah.
The only way is up. Yep.
What are you asking me?
How you feeling? Ready?
I'm good.
Looking forward to today's topics. There's 3.
Yeah, I am.
Yep.
Yep.
So I'll quickly give a bit of a brief on what we're talking about today. The first part is we're talking about fighting anti-Semitism and keeping guns out of the hands of terrorists and criminals. Amendment Bill 2026, which was released to Parliament in this was released this week into Parliament. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to be talking about the Sydney protests, or depending on who you talk to, the Sydney riots. And then we are going to, shock and horror, we're going to be talking about the Liberal leadership debacle, spill, controversy, issues, whatever you want to call it. Implosion. Yep. So there are 3 things we're going to talk about. The first one is obviously the first one we discussed, which was fighting the anti-Semitism and keeping guns out of the hands of terrorists and criminals. Amendment Bill 2026. You've got to love the
What are you
titles.
going to shorten it to this time? Because remember, that's your new role for the government.
Yes, I did. I think I just called this one...
The FAKG.
Crap. Yeah.
Well, you could call it the FAK-GOT Criminals Amendment
That
Bill.
sounded really bad. Do we have a beep for this? Or I actually called it the Police State Bill.
Okay.
That's very Joe Biolki.
Yeah, well,
Are we returning to a police state? Is that what you're suggesting?
that's kind of what. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm suggesting. I'm not
Okay.
biased, but if I was, that's what I'd be suggesting.
I'm just going to call it the FAK-GOT
blah,
Again.
Criminals Amendment Act.
There's children watching.
What did you call me?
All right, the FAK-GOT CAB
How about
2026.
How about the government intervention bill?
You know when you said that the first time, you thought, I probably should not do that again. You probably should.
I did it twice more after that.
That's right.
Actually, I never thought I should never do that again.
Yeah. Oh well, maybe it was just me. Anyone else?
Stuart, I'll tell you what. Can I just? I'm going to flags something you often say to me, which I really
Which
commend.
flag? Because some of them are illegal. In
No, they
Queensland,
can
so-
be. Yeah, we're flying any flag that's allowed to be flown can be flown. But the government overreach, and I think this underpins it all.
Well,
it's a good way of putting
Yeah.
the whole thing. One was it necessary?
So I'm not sure if you've been involved in this podcast before, but
No.
we make the conclusions after we've said what we're talking about.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I'm going to begin with the end in mind.
Yeah, well,
That this legislation will not change my vote, and I'm pretty disgusted in it.
all right. Well, let's talk about it. The bill was introduced into Parliament this week. It sort of came quickly, probably because people are responding to what happened in December with the terrorism attack. It operates or it deals with three main areas, and that's to deal with speech, firearms, and police powers. So I'm going to go through some of those now, just so we can, we'll talk about those. So the first is the prohibition of symbols has been expanded, so you can't publicly display or publish or distribute terrorism symbols that could reasonably cause a person to feel menaced, harassed, or offended. I hope there's more substance to that, because the definition of reasonable and offended and hurt, it depends on what the person...
Can be quite broad.
Yeah. Does that fill you full of comfort that this...
No.
What do you...
And before we go any further, what happened to generate this is no excuse for it. It was absolutely horrific. So I feel for those communities. I feel for those people. That's not in question. It's the government's response to that we're dealing with.
Absolutely. What do you think, Terry? Does that the publication of symbols that could reasonably cause a person? So I assume what's going to happen there is that they'll determine what those symbols are, like the Nazi symbol, like the other. There's some considered Muslim that fit in that terrorism space. So they'll determine what they are, and then you can't publish them. But it's very similar to the federal laws, isn't it?
I'm not sure, is it? I haven't...
Well, it's almost identical.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
it's-
almost
Okay.
identical.
It
I
almost-
just think the the prison length might be slightly different.
Yeah, I'd have to check that. Yeah, I thought it was 2 years as well. Or was it 7?
I don't know. I'm trying to go off the top of my head from our previous
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's a similar offence. Then you have the expression new prohibited expression offence. So the recitation, display, publication of prescribed expressions, including slogans, becomes an offence where it could reasonably cause someone to feel menaced, harassed, and offended. And in the explanatory notes, in the media release by the government, it used the reference from the river to the sea as a slogan, and then it went on further and said any similar slogans. And we did talk on the pod. We did have a chat previously, and we said that John Farnham's "Like the River to the Sea."
Two Strong Hearts song.
Yeah, Two Strong Hearts. I don't know if you could play that. You certainly couldn't play it at a protest, I don't think.
Well, I checked. There's probably about 50 songs with that sort of thing, and then it doesn't have to be absolutely word for word. It could be just construed, or what's the right word? It could be cause reasonable concern.
It doesn't make sense to me. Surely
It's
they would determine there was an intent behind making or using these slogans, and that would sort of, like, there's context that we're not really discussing here. Because, I like John Farnham's
Is there
song.
context in the bill?
Well, the bill just says to amend it. It doesn't actually go on. The explanatory notes talk about it. All it really says is that there will be phrases, and those phrases will be determined at a future date by regulation as opposed to the Act, and that even those phrases might be an offence, but offences could even result if it was similar to, but the intention was still there. And intention is very hard to determine based on words. I think it's very clunky and very unsafe type of legislation. I don't think
We felt the same way about the federal legislation, though.
but this is far worse.
Yeah.
I think it's actually making it an offence to say something.
Does this have any similarity to back when Newman was Premier and they were looking at outlawing bikie activity or reducing it through slogans and...
Well, no, they have outlawed. That is legislation now, the outlaw motorcycle gang legislation, which prohibits
certain visual patches and things.
Yeah, and they can't ride in formation. They can't. So that they've outlawed 4 motorcycle gangs in Queensland, and then I think they've done it in New South Wales, and it was acknowledged that it was a breach of human rights. But doesn't really. Human rights don't matter that much. So they made a decision. I'm not a fan of outlaw motorcycle gangs, but I'm equally not a fan of legislation that restricts people from associating, because one day a group that I might be a part of will be outlawed as well, and I just don't think that's...
just a matter of time.
It's easy governance, but it's not good governance. It's not good for communities to have that type of legislation.
So how do you then encourage societies to be... to really embrace free speech and not feel menaced, harassed or offended, because I think that we're very much moving towards that. How do we encourage civic debate in such a way that all these ideas, whether you like them or not, can come together and be discussed in a responsible way without people...
absolutely. But the reverse you can be a wolf in sheep's clothing and you can say all the nice things you want to say in the world, and yet, meanwhile... You're planning some sort of trauma for someone.
That's true.
So, it's a double-edged sword. Like, how does that stop any sort of destruction of your general culture? The reverse is not being managed. So we're just getting all this... Psh, psh, psh. It's a lot of white noise that most people won't figure out. And they want to have their opportunity to say something. Now, if someone says it's offensive, well, then it's dealt with generally at the time. There's thousands, hundreds of thousands of statements said every day that are offensive to somebody.
Half of them were just before we started.
Yeah, exactly.
They were funny.
So they were funny. So I sort of just, it comes back to that overreach thing. How's it going to be tested? The words, the machinations of the English language as such, it's going to be just a field day for solicitors and
That's
legal
an offensive
argument.
Slogan, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
but it's like any legislation which restricts or takes away your rights as a citizen of the country or of the state. If the legislation is there, solicitors can't defend what legislation has prescribed. So if it is an offence and it's proven, and there's nothing... The important part of any civil discourse is that we address it at the bill stage. We address it when it's here before it becomes legislation. Because at the moment, we talked about police powers, and while it is scant, it should be noted that police now have the power to stop, detain and search without a warrant for these offences.
Don't they have that anyway?
No, but for certain offences, but for...
Okay.
So
it's been ramped up.
Yeah, so they now have added these sections. My question is, how do you search someone for words?
Well, if they have a crossword on them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a strange... So it could then only lead me to think that it's an access to a digital device, a mobile phone legislation, which is now Section 154, capital A, and 154 of the Police Powers and Responsibilities Act.
Don't they already have that capability and...
Not for just any old reason.
So let's unpack that, because I think let's talk about the history of accessing a mobile phone in Queensland. There were submissions made and a bill was passed in Queensland that asked for phones to be, under exceptional circumstances, to be accessed. Now, the one reason they gave was because of child sex offences and predators, and they said we must act, we have to do this. So then they added a law that said if you committed a prescribed offence, which is a sexual offence against a child,
yes,
then police had the power to take your your phone and then get a warrant from a Supreme Court justice to access your phone, and that you are required to give your PIN number, or you'd be committing an offence.
Yep.
Then that legislation changed. It went from child sex offences to offences. So all of a sudden, it's changed significantly. And then they've changed it now where a police officer can go to a magistrate's court and can seize your phone, take your phone away, and then ask a magistrate for a warrant to get the PIN number to search it. So we went from, and everyone was saying, yeah, that, and all the legislators, all the explanatory notes were very clear on it. We have to stamp down on child sex offences. And who would disagree with that? No one.
Yeah.
But that's usually how it starts, isn't it? And then it gets chipped away and chipped away.
So let's add another offences. And that's where this comes in as well. And we might jump straight to that, is that surveillance. So police surveillance now has changed in the Police Powers and Responsibilities Act as a result of this, as a result of two terrorists committing a terrorist act in Bondi. We are now bound by a surveillance or expanded surveillance and covert powers. And now, so before it was a 7-year threshold for police to get a warrant to do surveillance operations on you as a citizen. They've now dropped that to 3 years. So when you think about 7 years and what those sorts of offences are, they're in the serious end of any. So if it's a murder, if it's a rape, if it's a corporate espionage, if it's a high crime involving outlaw motorcycle gangs, it falls into that space. 3 years now falls into the space of willful damage, obstructing police, minor frauds, and lower level violence. So all of a sudden, we've now shifted even this, where we're now surveilling our society for much lesser crimes now. So you think about what that allows and how that scope then changes. Like this.
Yeah.
Is anyone okay with this?
No. I'm not okay with it.
I'm not okay with it. And one of my favourite movies of the future, Demolition Man, with Wesley Snipes and Sylvester Stallone. And I didn't think it was possible where the voice-activated fines. And I believe there's some in China already. If you're caught swearing, but with all the cameras immersed in our suburbs now, you
can't escape it.
You can't escape it. So you could say something flippant. Next minute, you got a knock on the door.
You can't scratch your ass, and you'll be on the internet.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know where it ends, and it'll just keep stretching. I don't like the fact that everything now, when there's a criminal offence, the government said, well, hang on, it could be terrorism. Well, terrorism's still criminal, but then they've got this extra level of...
Yeah.
Are we missing context here, though? I'm only playing devil's advocate because I don't like the notion of being surveilled. Like, if the COVID era has taught me anything, overreach I'm not okay with that. Would the intention, though, be to be surveilled? There's a whole lot of context around this. The police aren't necessarily going to go after Robert because he wrote on his...
But let's
trying to understand.
Yeah. So let's be clear. The intention... This is in response to a terrorist attack.
Correct.
And the intention is to address that.
Yes.
But the consequence is that a police officer 5 years from now, sitting in his or her office or at his or her desk, can determine and apply for a surveillance warrant on somebody for something as simple as an obstruct police. That's effectively what it's allowing that level of surveillance to occur. I don't think that's the threshold we should ever want. I think the threshold for following somebody or tapping into their phones has to justify something of, like, if you're going to take away someone's right to privacy, it's got to be a good reason.
Yeah, I agree.
It can't be. So
well, you've had first-hand experience of that too.
Oh, absolutely. And my first-hand experience tells me that if you give someone power, there are some people who respect that and some people who push it. And that's, you have to make allowance for the facts that in this situation, you have to consider the worst case scenario when you're creating legislation like this.
I agree with that.
And the worst case scenario is pretty
Someone's gonna
bleak.
abuse it.
It's pretty
Yeah.
bleak in my mind. The worst case
I'm
scenario
with
is
you,
that
Stuart.
police officers can follow you, can search your phone.
They may be
can search
instructed
you.
to.
They can stop you from saying words. This is not a healthy democracy. Do we not trust our society enough to allow them discourse that might offend or might hurt people's feelings, and know that we're and I don't mean that.
Maybe that's just the excuse though. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what the driver is. Is it that we want zero tolerance, zero incidents? Are we crushing, like the Demolition Man? Are we crushing actually the community where they can't breathe? And where's the warnings? Where's the capacity for someone to show some compassion to say, well, that person's just gone a little bit astray. They will bring you back in. It just keeps. It's like an 8 kilograms sledgehammer to punch in a tack.
Yep. So I want to go quickly because we've got to get past this one. There is other parts of the legislation that are, or the bill that are considered as well. Religious worship protections. So assaulting a minister has increased the penalty. Disturbing religious worship. New offence for intimidating or obstructing people entering or leaving a place of worship, and willful damage to a place of worship. So they've tightened up that. I don't have any issue. I think that's fair.
I don't have an issue with that either. Yeah.
Yep. And then the firearms. Satira, I'll defer to your expertise in this area.
Well, I think they're sensible.
Yeah, so they're
Changes.
stealing a firearm increases to 14 years. Reckless discharge towards a building or a vehicle up to 16 or 20 years. It does those types of
Stuart, where did all this stuff come from? Isn't there enough stuff already? Well, why did we have to go to another level? Is it just the length of time, or have they added all these other incidences that have...
There's nothing
Stuart and I
wrong.
talked about this. There are some really good things that they've strengthened in the firearms and weapons law. You know, you have to be a citizen to obtain.
Yeah, okay.
I think that
I like that.
that's a no-brainer. But
Yeah.
now it's very clear.
I didn't know that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
But thankfully I've plugged that hole.
Previous offences are going to be taken into consideration when you apply for and whether you receive.
That's
you
a
know.
from a federal point of view.
I think that's
Yeah.
a
But-
good call as
But
well.
Queensland was already tight. Like
Absolutely.
Queensland had some of the most progressive weapons licensing laws in the country.
Yep.
And so
Agreed.
look, there's nothing wrong when a tragedy like this happens and there's firearms involved and there's behaviour involved to look at your legislation and tighten it up. There's a difference between tightening it up, tweaking it, or sacrificing freedoms at the expense,
in the name of.
Yeah, or trying to achieve an outcome that you're not really sure you're going to achieve through legislation that impedes everyone's freedom.
Agreed. And
So-
I would applaud this. I think they've done a good job at strengthening.
Yeah, so then trafficking weapons, up to life imprisonment.
I would like to know what responsible discharge towards a building or vehicle is.
Where does it say that?
Well, that's reckless discharge towards a building or vehicle. What's a responsible discharge towards a building or vehicle?
Because that's a really good point, because there are cases where, for example, if you're at a shooting range and you're shooting towards a building, but there is a big
Target.
target
Again,
and
that's
a
context.
hill. Yeah, but you've got to say it's got to be reckless, because if I'm shooting towards a building, the building could be 2 kilometres away, so it's not reckless.
Right.
So the word reckless is important in that you can't just charge someone for shooting toward a building, because again, context matters.
Yeah.
So that's where reckless gives it that context.
Now I understand.
I just
the
thought it
point.
would be more specific about it.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll provide that context as
I
well.
hope they don't just go out trying to chase some scalps to prove that this was necessary and drill down on communities unnecessarily. I hope it just...
I don't think any of this is unnecessary when it comes to firearms. They
3D
are-
printed firearms.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. That legislation wouldn't even have to be considered 15 years ago, because it was
No, I concur with that, but I know people with registered firearms, and they're feeling that, a little bit claustrophobic as a result of this.
Absolutely.
I hope, it's another.
There's nothing in here that should cause anyone who has a response who's
responsible. Yeah. So we're feeling comfortable. We're feeling comfortable about this. So the freedom of speech.
The federal legislation, as it stood initially, would have made some people uncomfortable, but they really dialed that down as well. They've got this. Okay. So then the next part is there's firearm prohibition orders were normally done by application to the Magistrates Court. Now the Commissioner of Police gets to do that. That's an administrative matter, so it's not really a matter. So if we looked at it all, what this does is so this bill expands criminalised speech. It broadens warrantless search powers, lowers surveillance thresholds, shifts decision-making from courts to execute those prohibition orders, and extends criminal liability further into preparatory contact. So if you've done something with a weapon, if you've prepared a weapon or done something, then you have a liability, which again is a bit of a scary one that we didn't really touch on, but there's not a lot in the bill that we might have to look at it a bit later once it's gone past committee. And so those are the things that it looks at. All in all, how do we feel about our freedoms of speech or the criminalisation of certain speech? Comfortable with it?
I feel like most of it, once there were more specifics, it'd be easier to see, like you said, the context, and exactly a bit more black and white rather than grey language would be good.
So my question then is, should a slogan attract a 2-year term of imprisonment?
My answer would be no.
No, I think I'm a no on that too.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
People say bad stuff all the time. It's the person who's taking it on chooses to take it on or not.
You could issue them and say, hey, that is an offence, warning. You've got 24 hours to take it down. Cease and desist.
Well, it's words though. There's no taking it down.
This is like at a rally or something.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Sydney protests because that's the next topic we're talking about. And
which is kind of segueing really when it talk about
it's the same
powers and...
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think some of those people were testing. It wasn't actually them, from what I saw, they were testing the edge. I know there was a lot at play, but... Well,
let's talk about it. So in Sydney, we had thousands of people gathered at the town hall in Sydney for a pro-Palestinian rally. And that was in relation to the Israeli Prime Minister coming to Australia to speak. People were very upset about that, and they instigated a right to protest. It was so when Herzog came, they chose to have a rally. Police used the Public Assembly Restriction Declaration and declared the protest a major event. They then declared marching on the roadway in that area to be unlawful during the operation. Organisers challenged this but were not successful in the Supreme Court for appeal, so their protest was unlawful. Do you think that the Public Assembly Restriction Declaration for a major event, like that they used the right legislation to discourage?
No, I think they were just looking for something they could easily do with a loophole.
Yeah. So I'm not sure that they used, but obviously the Supreme Court determined that they were allowed to.
At the end of the day, they've got the final call. So
yeah, and I personally don't agree with that. But police formed containment lines and refused to permit the march. As people attempted to move past police lines, officers used pepper spray, physical force. Authorities reported 27 arrests, and police alleged number of officers were assaulted. I want to talk about use of force, particularly when you think about the Cronulla riots in, what was it, 2000
or even more recently in Victoria, when the police stopped freedom marches and were quite heavy-handed during those marches.
Yeah, so there was...
And full military gear.
Yeah, and what they determined, well, from the Cronulla riots and I think from the Victorian riots or the protests as well, is that force, and this is in the Operation Procedure Manual, or the Use of Force Manual within the New South Wales Police Force, is that force must not be no more than reasonably necessary.
Proportionate.
Yeah. Not be used as a punishment and must involve de-escalation. And I want to talk about de-escalation, but I want to show you this video, if the video works, and then I'll ask you a few questions about it.
Sure.
Guys, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Oh my God! What are you doing? Stop! Stop!
So when you look at that, you have people praying. Now, they're Muslim and they pray 5 times a day. They are required by under their faith to pray 5 times a day. The prayers normally last about 5 minutes. So the moment that they went kneel down to pray, any police officer there could have made the reasonable assessment that there is no risk to human life or to anyone, and that in 5 minutes, in less than 5 minutes' time, they would be able to disperse the crowd.
If they were aware of
Well,
their prayer time. I mean, there was someone there shouting, "What are you doing?" I don't know if that was the protesters or if it was a police officer.
It was the protesters. But my question is, was this force more than reasonably necessary? And did it escalate or de-escalate the situation?
Well, it definitely escalated the situation. It certainly wasn't calming things down.
No, it was. So, I mean,
But there's fault on both sides to it. Could that have been better communicated by the protesters? Hey, we're about to do this. Just take a step back. They should have been given some space, and obviously it's just built up. And
yeah, fault on both sides is one thing, but to actually address a police response, the police are given powers and they're trained to behave in a certain way. It's legislated.
yes,
So there are protests, and protests by their nature are confrontational because they are exercising a democratic right.
and getting a point across.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did any of the protesters there look violent, aggressive in any way?
I don't think so.
No, and most of the footage that I've seen
Not in that
hasn't
footage.
either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen some bad
There's a
behaviour.
little bit, but
Oh,
not
for
much.
sure.
Confrontation.
But
yeah.
what sort of, and that went around the world, like that and it's been condemned by a range of different people, including the Australian Federation of Islamic Councils, who said the facts are clear. Muslims were engaged in prayer. The surrounding protest was calm. Police were already present and aware what was taking place. Despite this, officers moved in forcibly, interrupted prayer, and used physical force against worshippers, including dragging individuals away and throwing some to the ground. This conduct is unacceptable. Peaceful religious observation does not constitute a threat to public order. Interrupting prayer mid-act and using force against worshippers cannot be justified on public safety grounds and raises serious concerns about discriminatory policing and the treatment of Muslims in communities. They are very lucky, the New South Wales Police, that they weren't in Queensland, because the new legislation would have made it an offence for them to disrupt an act of worship.
True. You've got a question here. If police waited for the prayers, would this have de-escalated the tensions more than their response of dragging people off the ground while praying? I've got to ask, why are they holding a protest during a time where they would normally be praying? Like, is this a little bit odd?
Well, no,
I guess
because
they've been out all day.
Have they?
Yeah, well,
I don't know the time.
I don't know.
so their prayers occur 5 times a day.
Yes.
So it's
Dawn, midday, afternoon, sunset, and then night. So
Yeah.
when were the protests?
That would have been sunset in that footage, I think.
It would have been.
Oh, okay.
So now, if you are making a peaceful protest, Gandhi laid down prostrate in an act of submission.
Mm-hmm.
That is the type of protest I'd like to see. Like, I'd be comfortable with that protest. That protest you can contain.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the police response because
Yes, I know.
because let's be clear here. If I was managing that situation and police started dragging worshippers away, how much more has that environment become inflamed?
Yeah.
And police officers are now at risk, not by the people praying, but by people who take great offence to that and might turn. And when you talk about things in riotous situations where you have groupthink, where you have a mob mentality, it only takes one person to create to respond. And this is what I see that as being, is it was a spark that was started in a hay bale, and it didn't need to happen. Luckily nothing happened in relation to that. Like, it didn't escalate any further. But I've got to say, that's a terrible look for the New South Wales Police.
When you were a police officer, did you ever have to do any like rallies or marches or anything like that?
Yeah. And it was completely different then, because I think we came from a Joe era where it was all condemned to the protesters. There's dialogue between protesters and the police. You try to create an environment that allows them freedom of expression, because you're protesting for a reason. And I didn't see. There was a lot of examples of overuse of force, in my view. I think, or excessive. Actually, I don't even know if I call it excessive force, because when you're in a situation and you're trying to get someone to get their hands behind the back because you've decided to arrest them, you've got to do it quickly. So you use pain as a form of compliance. Sometimes you have to hit them in the knee. Sometimes you've got to hit them. So there's like all different pressure points you've got to try and hit. You hit, or you try and put pressure in at sympathetic nerves to try and get
wrists.
to get a response. So I can also understand why police responded that way. I'm just not sure that the decision making took into account even New South Wales's findings in 2006 when they were talking about, they did an internal review on the Cronulla riots, which were also very volatile. And they said there that the planning and risk assessments were inadequate, special resources were insufficient, and command communications equipment arrangements were weak. And I think that, that to me was some of the issues. But then the part about safeguards around intrusive powers, so that's where you have search, seizure, cordons and roadblocks. And I want to show you this roadblock or this movement, which I think, to me, it created a significant risk to the community and to police. Let's have a quick look at this.
This is Cronulla.
No, this is actually this week. This is in Sydney.
This is this week.
So you'll see here, and I'll just take you through it. Police have created a cordon. People are dispersing in the right way. They're going in the right direction. And then, do you see people advancing on the police?
No.
They're moving away, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which is a good outcome.
Yeah.
Now, this is the part that I have a real concern about.
Is that some?
That's a bike. That's a bin. Now, police are moving fast. Now, this is where they should stop. That's where they should stop. Because now look at that. That there creates a risk because, one, the police have actually broken a line.
Yeah.
You can actually, what I think, you see half the police stop at that spot. And I think the instruction they were given would have been to stop at the intersection and allow them to disperse. But then some of the police up front started running. In my mind, that is not good riot response or protesting response. I think it doesn't de-escalate.
In that and the other scenario, from your experience, who would have been making the calls then? Like, obviously, they would have had little earpieces or whatever, but who's making the call? Is there one dude and they're saying this is the situation and they make a call?
But in that situation, I don't think anyone's hearing.
What's going on?
There's not one. Like I think that they probably stopped someone at the front's probably, and it's all speculation. There'll be an inquiry done into it. But when I see that,
Yeah.
whoever made the call was not clear because some stopped,
Some went and some
moved,
stayed. Yeah.
and that I remember when I was in my first year of policing and I ran to the car and an old school police officer said to me, I know you want to get to the job quickly, but just bear in mind when people see a police officer running, they panic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't give people a cause to panic.
Yeah.
And I think in this situation, definitely a cause to
So
panic.
if I could just add that, I think in the reviewing it, a protest has to trigger some form of reaction. But I feel the whole thing was adversarial, that the police are there to ensure public and property safety. And people should be allowed to express their views without causing too much trauma to anything else. I think, and I heard it on the radio this morning. I've never heard the word before, but they use the word the protesters were kettled. So you heard any sentient being, and they will react. It was an accident waiting to happen. Like there's a way to manage that. There is a lot of tension in the air, and they need to plan them better. They need to talk to okay, we're going to do this, this, and this, and at certain points during the protest, we'll be stopping and praying. Like, was that actually ever discussed? And as the police, they should have been have a liaison with the protesters. So look, this is a go, this is a no go, and we can walk it out together. Like that's Australians on Australian soil acting like that. I feel very saddened.
I think you make a good point, though. If you are intending on hosting a protest, and I know people are wanting to make a point, there has to be a way to support the safety of the police as well as the protesters, and
Absolutely.
and it warrants a risk assessment or a discussion beforehand about, this is what we're going to do. There might be some time during the protest, if it goes over, where people are actually going to be praying. I mean, I don't know what that could be, but it could have been managed better. And I think it also highlights police resourcing is probably not where it should be. I'm trying to be very diplomatic here. A very good friend of ours is a police officer, and it really makes me sad to think of how under-resourced.
Oh, so
they
under-resourced.
are.
Yeah.
And when their role is to protect us and property, as you say, and they're doing so much more now with less, and that's very sad.
Yep. Well,
It was to me it was adversarial between the protesters and the police. That they shouldn't have been in the mix.
Were the police in danger?
no. Well, look,
Possibly.
were the police...
It wasn't obvious.
So were the collective police in danger? No. Were there individual situations where police were physically
probably assaulted? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
A police officer, the moment they walk out the door, is
is a target.
in danger.
Yeah.
There is no question that a portion of that group of protesters would have done things that were,
Not within the guidelines.
Yeah, you saw bins thrown. You saw scooters thrown. There was recalcitrant behaviour. There is no question.
Yeah.
The difference between an isolated person doing something like that, and the police
and the mob doing that,
but the police responding with aggression, or in a way that can foster more anger from a larger group of people, is what I'm sort of focusing on.
Absolutely, Stuart. I agree.
You have to. Cronulla riots showed us, the protests in Victoria. There has to be a better way. I'm not saying that police were wrong in the way they handled everything, but you can clearly see that
in certain
if you look back, so this is not about This is not about blaming the police.
Yeah,
it's about how can you better respond the next time something like this happens.
And it was adversarial. But that's not the purpose of the process. It wasn't the protesters versus the police, and that's what it ended up.
Well, maybe it was, because it's quite impactful when you've got that kind of footage and it goes around the world. It gets,
except when you're calling for peace, and that's
kind of ironic, isn't it?
And some of the language, I just think there's no place for it in an Australian democracy.
Agreed.
You don't need to say anything about the rhetoric that was screamed out at these sorts of rallies. Call for peace.
Yeah,
You
that's
see in
right.
Minnesota, people walking down the street singing songs of peace,
Yeah.
and you go, "That's the sort
way
of
to do
protest.
it.
That's
yeah,
you know,
I agree.
be-
yeah.
be the example, be the difference, and celebrate." And I think the people who were praying were exactly that. They demonstrated peace and what they were trying to protect, which is their culture, which is their way of worship, and
Yeah.
that they're real people. And then they were. I just don't think they were treated fairly at all. And I would agree with the Australian Federation of Islamic Councils that it's not appropriate what happened in that situation. Now,
Yep.
I want to go on to the most exciting topic, the Liberal leadership spill, Taylor versus Ley.
Could it be any more drawn out?
Oh, it's just torture.
All divorces are drawn out.
So at the moment, Liberal MPs and senators meet tomorrow for a leadership spill. Yep. Angus Taylor has resigned from the Shadow Ministry and will challenge Susan Ley. There's 6 front benches so far that have reportedly quit to support the challenge. It was evident today in Parliament when there was hardly anyone behind her. And the Taylor announced his candidacy on social media. There were some comments in relation to social media, wasn't there? Firstly, his backdrop for where he made the announcement. What happened there?
Yeah, well, he made the announcement, or what he posted online was from videoed at his farm, but Parliament's sitting this week, so he must have done it well in advance in preparation.
It's not that deep. You're looking too far
That's
into
pretty.
it.
That's pretty clever.
Yeah.
Unless AI put the farm behind him.
Yeah,
Boom,
and
boom.
we all know. We all know that he is certainly a clever guy. Like his use of social media is exceptional. If you look let's look at the screen now, and you can see here Angus Taylor, MP, made a post: 1,000 extra car parks for rail commuters right across the north of Hume, and then Angus Taylor responds to his own post: "Fantastic, great move. Well done, Angus."
But as an administrator to a couple of social media pages, that's easy to do.
Yeah,
That should have been removed. But you can't really take these things
You
down.
Oh,
can't
once it's a
do that.
screenshot, yeah.
That's it.
so, but the thing is, he admitted that that's what happened. But my question is, who was his fake ID? Like, who is his fake ID? Like,
Who was him intending to be?
Yeah, who was he? Like, he was meant to do it on a burner account with a different name.
I see what you mean.
So,
right.
Oh, wow.
so has anyone asked him? Well, who was the person you were
Yeah,
meant to be?
who's
Art
alter ego?
Vandelay
So let's
from
be clear.
Vandelay.
So when he did that, he's got his account, and then he's got another account that he
Well,
logs
called
into.
Joe Blogs.
Gosh, I
And
love it.
no one's asked him. Firstly,
What's the name of your other account?
yeah. Secondly, if he was successful, isn't that fraud? Isn't that dishonest?
Certainly deceptive.
It's an act of
I mean,
fraud.
Well, you've certainly
Good
got
job,
a
well
beef.
done.
Is
Fantastic.
You've certainly got a
Is
beef
it
with
fraud?
Angus.
I know.
Like that
And
one time during your election when you also responded to one of your comments. Good job, Stuart. And you put like the clapping emoji. Remember that?
No.
Maybe you should have.
Oh,
I
was
did
it
go.
Dave?
I did go on to Angus's video today,
Right.
and I wrote from me, Stuart Taylor, to Angus Taylor. Fantastic, great move, well done, Angus.
But even Hanson
middle
Young
name is-
today, Hanson Young did the same
Yeah.
in her.
Oh,
her
so it's
presser
become
today.
its own.
Yeah, she did the
It'll be
same.
the news. It'll be the news now. One tiny portion of
That was a couple of years back, though.
one sentence.
That's
It
so
They just follows him
explodes.
around.
Stuart
Oh,
Angus
dear.
Taylor. Well
Yeah.
done. Fantastic.
And that's
Great
what I'm
move.
saying. He has got a beef against Angus.
Yeah. Okay. For any.
No.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Finally. Yeah, I was trying to ignore it. It's terrifying.
Oh no, Stu! That's
terrible.
what you normally do. That's
Yeah,
why.
can you write down? Yeah, delete that comment.
No,
Yeah.
it's not
Edit.
in.
Yeah. So this is not without historical context, is it? In 2018, Malcolm Turnbull survived one spill, then lost the second. Scott Morrison defeated Peter Dutton. And then in 2019, Morrison changed it so a leader who wins government cannot be removed during the parliamentary term except by 2/3 majority. Then in 2022, following the defeat of Morrison's government, he resigned. Dutton was elected, and then Ley was the deputy leader. And now Ley faces the challenge for the top job from Angus.
So is it allowed? Stuart, is that...
Oh yeah, it's allowed.
It's okay.
Is this a wise thing for a party that is struggling with women voters, millennials, Gen Zs? Is this a wise thing for them to throw their? Is this their first female leader?
Yeah.
Their first female leader.
Yeah.
And they've basically tomorrow. Angus has made a leadership challenge on their first female leader when the very professional women is one of those areas that they're really struggling with. So does replacing So my question is, does replacing a female leader so quickly help or harm the outreach to professional women?
Oh, that directly
Absolutely.
It harms. Yeah.
I'm going to go back one step, and it just made me think about. I love Julia Gillard. I'm coming out. I've even got one of her signs. She copped an absolute pounding, and same with Pauline Hanson. Love her or hate her, there is a bias in
I don't love her.
No, but the issue is, when are they just going to let the leader do their thing for a period? Like it's just
Julie Bishop and the big swinging dicks who.
Yeah, it's just punishing, and I don't know whether it's a male or female bias that does it, but it's not fair. Julia Gillard, I think she did a fantastic job. Yep. I don't care. That's just my own opinion, but she was allowed to do some stuff in the end. I don't know whether Susan Lee's been allowed to do some stuff
Given
yet.
the environment she was in and the amount of legislation she passed, that was pretty impressive. But Ley's only been in there for 9 months.
Yeah,
I mean, whether she's doing a good job or not, it's not a good look.
It's not a good look, but have the people around her been helping her?
Yeah, exactly. Why isn't the job being going as well?
So the difference between Lee and other Liberal leaders is that she's a moderate, and she is also a consultative. She's a consensus leader. So she goes and she speaks to people.
Yeah.
Maybe politicians don't like consensus. They like a top dog. I know what I prefer, and I think that
maybe that side of politics is more conducive to that kind of environment.
Yeah. Yep. So if Lee survives, does she emerge strengthened or permanently weakened? Is it a case if she survives that another vote's just imminent?
I think she'd be weakened. I don't think she's going to survive. That's my vote, because they wouldn't have done it if she was going to survive. They're not testing her. They want to shift her. It's not a test.
I think it depends on the numbers.
Yeah,
like the last time
they would have done the numbers.
Yeah, they're all running numbers now.
He's done the numbers before he's left.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, unless someone turns.
Yeah. Like last vote, it was Ley 29, Taylor 25. If that had been a bigger gap, they might not be as brave to do it now.
Yep.
So unless there is a big divide again, I don't know that they're not going to have the same problem.
The hole they're in is so deep that they're grasping at straws.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be.
She come out stronger or weaker?
Oh, weaker. Who wins? Nobody wins. It's just a big
that's what I
shit
feel.
show, really. Yeah, what a shame.
Can you beep that before it makes the word shit? Can you,
We've been cracking them out today.
Yeah, absolutely. So who wins? Who wins tomorrow? Who wins the vote at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning?
Yeah. I don't know.
Certainly not democracy.
No, I'm saying that she's going to get rolled.
Do we reckon they've been doing their job all week? Or do you reckon they've all been on their phones? They haven't been doing their job.
Yeah.
It's very disappointing. See, they're so low in the polls, they've got to find some excuse, and they're going to go to the leader, with male or female.
Yeah, well, the last news poll had 1 in 4 voters are voting Fon now, and 1 in 5 the Libs. So,
Yeah. And what about all the turmoil with Turnbull and all that? Like, it's not new. It's not male, female, but to me, I don't think they've given her a chance.
yeah.
And she is fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah, I mean, look, like we've said previously on the podcast, the talent pool isn't particularly deep right now, but how quickly are you going to burn through your potential leaders before you just stick with one?
Absolutely. I'm tired of all this leadership crap. Like, it's just getting in the way of
Getting
leadership.
shit done.
Yeah.
Beep.
Shit done. Yep. Absolutely. So from that perspective, now I want to take you to what's the time now? We've got a few minutes left. We do have a little section where people can go and put up a video question. They can ask a question using their camera, and they can send it in. It gets sent through to us, and then they have the opportunity to ask a question, and we can either choose to answer it or not choose to answer it.
That's nice. Under the new legislation.
So I'm gonna get this question done. 1 second, we'll just go to it, and maybe Robert, this might be a question for you. I think.
Ouch.
You might know the esteemed gentleman. Let's have a listen.
Hey guys, with the Epstein files that have come out and all the crazy stuff going on in the world at the moment, has it changed your mind about tinfoil hat wearers?
Robert.
Let's throw to Robert.
Epstein files, tin hats. So that is Macca.
Oh no, he's looking well.
Yeah, he's.
And it's a solid question.
So do you wear tin hats?
No.
No.
Oh, the Epstein files to me are just like a Mariana Trench of how deep can it go? It's like a systematic worldwide connection to hook people up and have something on them. Like it would make a decent movie.
Yeah.
It's
kind of disturbing one.
A very disturbing.
So for me, and it could be a whole podcast. I don't wish to get into it, but what it does do is it's another example of destabilisation of democracy and governance. And when you see, I don't actually agree that the Epstein files in their entirety should have been released.
But there's millions of pages.
But there's also
hundreds of thousands. It's ridiculous.
Millions, I think.
I'll give you an example.
Is it millions?
Somebody wrote in or rang into the FBI and made these crazy allegations about somebody, and then they become public, and people go, "Oh, because it's in the Epstein file, it must be true." And it was actually about Donald Trump, and it was about how he did some really gross things, like really offensive raping of children at a auction with his daughter there, his son, with the whole. And so straight away you can look at it and go, that is just stupid. That didn't happen. Someone rang that. It is so fictitious.
Nonsensical.
It's so vitriolic and evil. Yeah, because it made the Epstein files, it got released. People were saying, "Oh, look at this! Look what Trump did." He didn't do that.
Well, we don't know, do we?
No. Well, what we do know is it doesn't even like it can't. It's like someone saying that an alien came down. It was so fanciful that it was clearly evident that you would literally go lunatic, move on to the next thing. It's not a credible, and people do that. They make vitriolic statements to try and get people in trouble.
Yeah, they throw enough mud at sticks.
So I guess my point is absolutely there's so many things that are important about the Epstein files and how they should come to light. But it should have been done it should have been done as an inquiry and investigation, and the findings come out in a truthful and transparent way, not the way that it's been done. It's become a political hand grenade for both sides. And all it has done is undermine our trust in
Absolutely.
leadership, in good governance, in our
Institutions. Which is kind of an increasing problem all over the world.
Well, it's actually almost the theme of this podcast, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess
It
in this
is.
today, we're talking about overuse of powers in Queensland. We're talking about over response to protesting, and then you're talking about a dysfunctional leadership that has proven to us that we should be concerned about our leadership because they can't get their shit together. And that's the word of the day, shit.
Beat that one out too.
Yeah.
All I can say is good job. Well done. Was it good job? Fantastic. Good
fantastic.
job. Well done, Angus. Yeah.
Back to the tinfoil question, though. I think there's a big difference between there potentially being an international pedophile ring that includes people very high up in society, very wealthy people. There's a big difference between that and those people walking around as lizards, which
Is that in the Epstein files?
No. That's what some people believe about the same kind of
roll-on.
circle of things.
Yeah.
I feel like there is a point where something, may be true, like international pedophile ring, powerful people. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's definitely possible.
Yeah, it
but I don't.
definitely is
But
possible. Yeah.
I draw the line where it goes to like there's lizard people.
Yeah. And there's no question at the moment, child sex offences are growing exponentially, and the use of technology now. Now, you could address that with an algorithm and AI and not allow people to send naked images of children on a mobile phone or carriage device. You could switch that on tomorrow. But the people who sell these don't want to do that because they don't want people who use them to think that they're being watched.
Yeah.
But you could fix those sorts of things. So that, to me, there is so much we could do to fix or address those issues, and talking about them, addressing and holding people who have committed offences to account.
I agree.
Absolutely.
And the root of the problem too, like rather than it all being the Band-Aid, like what's the root of the problem? Why is it exponentially growing, or is it just more spoken about now than it was back in the day? Like,
Well, it could be both. But I guess my issue is that I have no doubt that the amount of people that should have been accountable for their actions as a result of Epstein and his group of
Demonic setup.
nowhere near enough people have been held accountable for what they've done, the crimes they've committed. The solution to that is not releasing files. It's investigating and
the
prosecuting
information
people.
that you have.
And now some of those prosecutions are so far past the statutes of limitations that it's almost...
So it's tainted the whole process? Is that what you're saying?
I just think it
was shut down at the time.
It's wasted energy. It should have been... And I guess they would say it has been investigated, but by just looking at some of the
files
information-
themselves, so they basically just say the FBI all have their little computers and they just dump all the information in there. That's what the files are, or they were something that had some level of investigation and...
Yeah, so every bit of seized information, whether it be from a computer, whether it be from hard copies, was all in those documentation. So you've got files are literally all the files for all the offences, millions and millions of documents.
Yeah.
All right, that is our time up. You've got a PT appointment. I've got a dinner with my wife and some friends, so we've got to go, and you've got to go and get a new name tag, Robert. Robert.
Okay.
His shirt matches the background though.
Wockets and
Does.
Wobbit.
Yeah, well, I will flag with you that this year is a big thing for me again on sending a manned rocket to the moon, 50 years on. In July 1969, we were sent home from school because there was no TV, and we watched man land on the moon, human. And then I thought, what a pursuit that was. It was just awesome. I did want to be an astronaut in the 60s, like millions of other people around the world. But this week, there's a rocket on the launch pad at NASA, and that's why I'm wearing my rocket shirt.
I thought you were wearing it because my dog's name is Rocket, and this whole room is dedicated to that. Guys,
Stuart, I
It's
just
probably
wanted
the
to thank
Coldplay
you.
song.
Yep, not a problem. Rob, hope we'll see you again. Guys, we'll see you again.
Thank
It's
you.
now past 6:30, so we've got to get out of here.
Fire.
Thanks for joining us for Who Gives a Vote.